We are the thin blue line, the thin blue line, the thin blue line. We investigate ourselves. We're always innocent. Everything we do is within our own policies that we made up. We are the thin blue line, the thin blue line. Anyway, anyway, this guy right here, his son was killed by cops. I'm using this under fair use, YouTube. This is a video by Freethink. Using it under fair use. In other words, I pause, give my commentary, and basically make it a whole new video. If you don't want to watch this with me interrupting, go to Freethink and watch it for yourself. All right? Word.
9th, 2004. November 9th, 2004. My oldest son, Michael, he was shot and killed by a Kenosha police officer. We didn't know what was going on. Nobody is talking to me. I want to know the truth.
You mentioned that you'd run into some of the members of law enforcement, and that some live pretty close. How close is close?
There's a grocery store right down the road here, and one day I'm walking through there, and who's coming in the other direction but it's the officer who killed my son. Wow.
Can you imagine you're living somewhere where a cop has killed your son in your own driveway, and now you got to drive around town and see him around and pretend like he's a good guy?
And I got to confront him eye to eye.
Police-involved shootings have sparked controversy and intense debate. But long before Black Lives Matter versus Blue Lives Matter, before Colin Kaepernick versus Donald Trump, there was a man in Kenosha, Wisconsin by the name of Michael Bell.
There's no video on YouTube that tells you what to do after a police officer kills your son.
After his son was killed during a traffic stop, this retired military officer would spend more than a decade
A traffic stop.
searching for the truth and demanding reforms.
I thought there was going to be an investigation similar to what happens when an aircraft crashes. Look at all the facts and make a determination of what went wrong. That's not what happens in law enforcement.
We came
Not even close.
to Kenosha, Wisconsin to ask the question Michael Bell has been asking the entire country for more than a decade. When the police kill, should they investigate themselves?
That's a no-brainer. How about not just when they kill, how about when they do anything that's a little shady? Should they investigate themselves? Why would they investigate themselves about anything ever? Are they sovereign citizens or something? Why would they get to investigate themselves? Can you imagine getting pulled over? A cop says you're doing X, Y, Z, and you say, "Oh, sure, I'll submit this to my internal affairs department, and we'll let you know what we come up with, officer. And if I was speeding, I'll pay this fine, but just stand by. We have 2 weeks to tell you whether we were speeding or not."
November 9th, 2004. Just after 2 a.m. 21-year-old Michael Bell Jr. is parked in front of his home when he's approached by officers of the Kenosha, Wisconsin police.
Parked in front of his own home. And nowhere in this video, this is why I'm stopping it here. Nowhere in this whole video is anyone asked, why is he even being stopped? Right? Why is he even being stopped? It's never brought up. This is why traffic stops are so dangerous, because dangerous people are conducting them.
Department. A police dash cam captures the beginning of the traffic stop.
Right away, he's manhandling this kid for what reason?
But important details about what happens that night remain unclear more than a decade later. Off camera, Bell can be heard arguing with officers.
So the kid's telling him that He knows his rights. He's being manhandled. He wants to know what the hell's going on. All he's done is been parked in front of his house. He hasn't done anything else yet.
Things escalate as the encounter turns physical. The confrontation spills into Bell's front yard, where he's tasered by an officer. By the time more officers arrive on the scene, the encounter is moved up a narrow driveway to the right of Bell's house. And it's there, with his mother and sister watching from just 15 feet away. Then Michael Bell Jr. is shot and killed by officers of the Kenosha Police Department.
So now his mother, the kid's mother, and the kid's sister from 15 feet away witnessed this kid get murdered by these cops. For what reason? For being parked in front of his house. Who's creating the issues? Who's creating the divide? Josh? Cream-filled donut operator? Mike the sovereign cop? Who's creating the divide between citizens and police? What did they run up on him for to begin with? What did they speed up, turn on the spotlight, and stop him for to begin with? Being parked in front of his house? And then they tell him he's under arrest. Under arrest for what? Being parked in front of his house? This is what bothers me about some mainstream media. No offense, this is an awesome video, free thing. But what is initiating all this stuff is the stupid traffic code which they use to start everything.
About 10 minutes after 2, my phone rings. I reach over and I pick it up, and it's my oldest daughter. She says, "Dad, you need to come to the hospital. Michael's been shot." And in disbelief, I'm like, "Michael's been shot? Michael doesn't do anything to get shot. What are you talking about?" I walked into the hospital, and I remember to the left was an emergency room, and I saw doctors working on my son. And to the right, I saw about 5 police officers and the district attorney kind of huddled in conversation.
Conspiring.
They never said anything to me that night.
Never said anything to the child's father. Because they're there to serve and protect you, and they're heroes. And they risk their lives every day. Right, guys?
The loss of a loved one. I describe it as somebody jack up a car, you go underneath it, kick the jack out, and let the full weight of that car rest on you. That is probably the closest thing that one will experience. My son was killed November 9th, 2004 at 2 o'clock in the morning. And on Thursday, 2 days later, I got a phone call at noon asking me for a comment because they found the shooting justified. I was alarmed because I knew that there was a lot of eyewitnesses. And none of those people had completed all their statements to the law enforcement.
Probably by design.
That bothered me right away, because how could you conduct an investigation and be done in less than 2 days?
After a brief internal investigation, Kenosha Police concluded that its officers had acted according to department policy. Their official conclusion:
Same thing they said to me. I'm over here crying about lack of address. I submitted the actual law to the Pasco County Sheriff's Office that they were violating, and they always send literature back saying that our officers were within department policy. I don't care about your policy. I didn't say anything about your policy. I didn't say your deputy violated your policy. I said he violated the law. Just like these guys violated the law. I don't care if it's your policy to kill people in their driveway. The law says you're not allowed to kill people. The law says you're not supposed to bother people if they're not doing anything, especially being parked in front of their home. Let me guess. He went 4 or 6 over the speed limit a mile earlier, or he rolled through a stop sign, right? Now he gets to lose his life, right? Caps for cops?
that Michael Bell Jr. had been shot in self-defense after he'd grabbed an officer's holstered firearm.
I wonder how many times police have used that excuse.
If Bell had grabbed an officer's gun, then self-defense might justify the use of deadly force. But eyewitness testimony has never been entirely consistent with this claim. And at least one Kenosha detective wasn't satisfied with his department's investigation.
I didn't know Mike Mike was just some guy. He was the father of
So here's a good cop. Watch what happens to good cops.
a victim of a police shooting. However, I was in the bureau. I was like a fly on the wall watching what was happening, and I was disgusted by some of the things that I saw.
Russell Beckman is a 29-year veteran of the Kenosha Police Department. But frustration eventually led him to resign from the force. He'd eventually go on to aid the Bell family as a private investigator.
So because he couldn't do the right thing as an officer, he had to resign as an officer and work privately for this family in order to do the right thing the police aren't willing to do.
They ended up saying that this shooting was okay so quickly before the forensic reports were done, before the drug and alcohol reports on Michael's son were in. That was unbelievable to me.
I don't know how this guy went 30 years in the force, and it's unbelievable to him that there's that kind of corruption going on. That's widespread, my man.
When most of us think about investigations, we imagine something out of Law and Order. It's about finding criminals, putting the bad guy behind bars. But in other contexts, investigations are often about a lot more than just figuring out who to blame. When a plane crash occurs, commercial airlines don't investigate themselves. That's the job of the National Transportation Safety Board. The NTSB's independent investigators analyze accident scenes, determine the factors that led to the crash, and develop guidelines to prevent future tragedies. The end result is a transparent evaluation of what happened, why, and how to keep it from happening again. Each accident investigation is an opportunity to make the entire industry safer. But across America, police shootings are judged by an entirely different standard. When a civilian is killed during a police encounter, the resulting investigation might...
You shouldn't have used the word civilian there, because we're not civilians. We're citizens, just like the cops are citizens.
...be led by the same department and even the co-workers of the officer under investigation. Even under the best circumstances, the potential for a conflict of interest are...
This is my thing right here. The idea that police investigate themselves and then have the nerve to call someone else a sovereign is absurd. Not only that, just the idea that you can investigate yourself. That's like being a king. You're accusing me of something? Well, I didn't do it. Except the police take 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months to tell you they didn't do it. Let everything die down. Let it be an afterthought, and then send you an email or some stupid paperwork saying that, according to our policy, none of our policies were broken. Yeah, I know your son's dead in your own driveway in a pool of blood, but none of our officers violated policy. What? Murder? No. Policy.
very real. And so is the possibility of repeating the same mistakes. In the case of Michael Bell Jr.'s death, the Kenosha Police Department's investigation would eventually come under serious scrutiny. Despite official claims that Bell was shot after a struggle for an officer's gun, forensic testing conducted months after the internal investigation failed to find Bell's fingerprints or DNA on the weapon or holster.
Shocker.
The surprising discovery cast doubt on the entire investigation, and the Bell family found itself demanding answers.
We want to know the truth. We want to know the factual truth about what happened to our son. I called the governor. I was shut down. I called the attorney general. I was shut down. I was shut down from every different aspect that you can consider. Nobody would.
No one in government cared. What a shocker. The government for the people, by the people, could care less. Everyone you call. Just like when my stupid situation, I called 25 lawyers. Nobody cared.
Give me the time of day. When my son got killed, everybody in local government became a...
By the way, I also called the ACLU and I also called the FBI. Nobody cares. You're on your own. Unless we literally stick together or figure out some way to form a political action committee, we're basically lone wolves peppered across the United States.
Defendant. The mayor now had to defend his city against the liability. The police and fire commissions that were established, they make a decision whether to open this case up or shut it down. I didn't know the battle that I was going to be in for. After my son's death, these are the words right here. I get notified that the Wisconsin Professional Police Association is awarding the officers who killed my son with meritorious service awards.
Oh, what a shocker. They're giving awards to bad cops. Just like Joe Gamaldi, after saying that after his cops murdered a wife and a husband for doing nothing, he got an award by Caps for Cops. This is disgusting, man. You want to talk about blue line culture? Here it is. Cops killed the kid who was just parked in front of his house, right in his driveway in front of his mother, and they get awards. It's great.
For exemplifying the highest tradition of law enforcement. And then I knew that, darn it, if I can't fix it locally, I need to fix it on a national level.
Michael Bell vows to get his son's case reopened no matter what it takes.
Stonewalled by local officials, Michael Bell embarked on a statewide media campaign that eventually took on national proportions.
Not us. Who? If not now, when is this going to happen? Why national?
See, the crappy part is this guy had lost his son, you know. I got salty and went to court several times just to prove a point over my lack of address. I couldn't imagine losing my son, or even if they killed my dog or something. Oh my God, or anybody who was close to me. The rest of my life would be devoted to fixing it. And this guy did a great job, but he paid the ultimate price, unfortunately.
This is ground zero. I see this problem nationally. Audacity, audacity, always audacity.
And he purchased billboards.
Said we have 26 additional billboards, and I said I'll take them all.
Lots of billboards.
They are in your face.
The billboard designed to turn up the heat on lawmakers. The court.
See, exposure is the only thing that works, and billboards are a great idea. And around 9/11, I wanted to do the same thing, but I like what this guy's doing. Forget the notion that police investigate themselves for anything, much less when someone dies, is absurd. This is something that needs to go viral.
Of public opinion.
Anytime you investigate yourself, the investigation is tainted.
The system is set up in such a way that every single time it's justified.
His effort to reopen his son's investigation was taking on a new form. He'd found new allies, and the call for independent investigations of police-involved deaths was becoming a statewide issue.
Until a change is made in policy or personnel, this father says he is not backing down.
A lot of times those are thousands of dollars a month, so, I mean, I don't know where he found the capital to do all this.
Lawmakers hearing more than 3 hours of testimony about a controversial bill. The Criminal Justice Committee heard arguments over a bill that would create a statewide review board to investigate any police-involved death.
In the spring of 2014, after nearly a decade of effort, Bell and his allies had achieved a new milestone in criminal justice reform. Wisconsin became the first state in America to require independent investigation for all police-involved deaths. And in sharp contrast to the deep political divides typical of these issues, the bill was passed unanimously with bipartisan support.
That's great. Mind you, this is the same state where it has Stephen Avery and the kid in jail for probably being innocent of murder. Such a one side to the other story between Stephen Avery and this. In the same state.
And signed into law by a Republican governor. Inspired by the Wisconsin legislation, several states have adopted similar reforms. But across the rest of the country, local police departments and the district attorneys with whom they work closely.
See, it's only, what is it here? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like about 8 or 10 states have an independent review board. Every other state gets to investigate themselves when they kill somebody. Think about that, people. Don't wait till it's one of your family members.
Closely may continue to conduct opaque investigations into their own officers. And while the Wisconsin law is a starting point, Bell continues to advocate for related reforms to help make investigations more independent, transparent, and effective.
I believe the officer in my son's case made an honest mistake. The problem that I have here
This guy's such a good guy. He's still giving the cop the benefit of the doubt.
is that there needs to be an external learning model, like the NTSB, that all they do is determine what were the true causes of what occurred and issue safety recommendations to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
But even with everything Bell has accomplished, the new Wisconsin laws aren't retroactive, and the campaign to have his own son's death investigation reopened continues.
Now, why should it be so difficult for this guy to get his own kid's investigation reopened? Why? I thought that the government was for the people, by the people, or by the people, for the people. Well, why does this guy have to fight so hard and spend so much money to get a little bit of justice? You guys seeing a pattern here?
What do you think Michael would think about the work you're doing now?
I think he's laughing at what he's putting me through personally. I almost quit all of this. And then I remember in August 2012, I woke up from a dream. My son walked up to me, he put his hands on my shoulder, he looked me in the eye, and says, "Dad," he says, "can you believe it? I'm here early for my birthday party." And he put his arm around my neck, and I gave him a hug. And I said, "I'm going to give it one more try when I woke up."
So there's a great video from Freethink. Thanks, Freethink, for putting in that work. Support Freethink. Go watch this and maybe some of the other stuff they have. This was sent to me by Truth Seeker. This is used under fair use, YouTube. What else? Please like and subscribe and click the thumbs up and click the bell after you click subscribe. You want to support a brother financially, you can click the join button. You don't have to. I understand. I know how life works. You don't need to be throwing another $5 at some schlub on the internet. But if you want to support me, I appreciate it. If you want something awesome that lasts forever and can be passed down for generations, and that's already, some of these rings I make are already 50 years old. Like, basically 1964 was the last year 90% silver coins were used. So any coin ring I have before then is 90% silver, and it's over 50, 60, somewhere over 100 years old. I just made two from 1878, and if my math is correct, they're 417 years old each. So thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate you, and peace, tranquility, no victim, no crime, blah, 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 blah. Bye.